Yeah, sure, but let me fix the internet first.
Okay, yeah, Danilu, maybe you could start introducing yourself. Here's Chris.
I will do, yeah. So hi, Yazan, hi, Mohammed. So I'm Danny Lou. I'm a practitioner, writer, director, exec coach, do lots of those things. And yeah, nice to meet you. I heard about you last week, but I haven't met you yet. But I have met Mohammed, which is nice.
Yeah,
good, thank you, Danilu.
Okay, now I guess my internet is good, actually.
Go ahead, Yazan. Go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, it's nice to meet you, Wallah. I'm Yazan. I'm 20 years old. I live in Cairo, in Egypt. I have evacuated Gaza last March, and currently living here in Egypt. I'm trying to study or to continue my university, as I used to study engineering at Gaza, and now I'm working on my project Phoenix Rising with Dr. Jasfir and my cousin Hamad. And yeah, we are trying to speak about the Palestinian case and to raise awareness around the world, even in Egypt or in the Western world. So I guess that's our mission as youth.
So there was someone else who was going to join us today, Farah Al-Ahil. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, but she doesn't have internet after 5 o'clock, so she was not able to join us today. So Mohammed and Yazan, I've asked her to just reach out to you two, because you're in the same kind of time zone as her, you know, at a more convenient time. But that was the reason. That's the reason that she's not able to join us. And last week we had Danny Lou on the call, created these conversations, these conferences around the subject of creativity, which is very much in alignment with what Yazan is working on now with the Phoenix Rising. It's all about creativity. And so just to follow up on the conversations, we had a little follow-up conversation, didn't we, Danilu, about how environment isn't conducive, you know, because we still have the austerity, the hardships, you know, we don't have an environment conducive to creativity. And we know that that's one of the important things, isn't it, for creativity to arise, is that there needs to be an environment that is conducive to it. So how do we overcome that? Any more thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that we had a really, I loved the conversation that came out around how do we get creative around the fact that there's limitation, you know, on some element of that. And there was a conversation around amplifying voices and how can we, you know, is there a way that we can help amplify voices? And Mohammed came out with a lovely quote, which was, we talked about voice and that, you know, we all have voice, but sometimes we don't always have as much freedom of voice as other people. The freedom that we have in our voices it varies, right, depending on a lot of circumstances. But Mohammed came out with a lovely thing with, but if we speak, does the world have ears? And I thought that was such a poignant thing to say. And it just got me thinking in a creative way, I suppose, which is how do we help them have ears? You know, so yeah, I came away from the call thinking, who am I to sit here? What can I do? You know, and I thought, well, I know how to write and I know how to put things on a stage and I know how to get audiences in a room. And I wondered if that could be helpful.
Yeah. In one of our previous calls, you talk about being associated with influencers that have a lot of, you know, they have large networks and it's all about tapping into skills and resources like that, networks and skills. And so Danny Lou's talking about her skills as a writer, her skills in being able to bring people together. In what way do you think that may be in alignment with what you're doing with the Phoenix Rising? I know that you want to build community. How is it that you can establish stronger networks and communities around?
Okay, I guess your internet connection is not stable. I don't know if it's yours or everyone's facing the same problem.
Yeah. Do you want to jump in? Have you got thoughts on it?
Yeah, actually, me too. I have the same problem. I cannot hear the talk.
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything almost.
Try maybe if you turn off your camera, maybe the internet connection will be more better. I don't know if this will work with you or not, but for me, it's work and not work in the same time. So I still have the same problem.
So yeah, can you all hear me now? It seems as though so when I'm speaking, is it coming out as very intermittent? I don't know what the problem is, because at my end, everything is fine. I can see everybody, but it seems as though there seems to be a technical failure, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. There has been. You're fine now. This last bit that you've spoken is fine, but it's been breaking up quite a lot, yeah, and freezing.
Into resources of like
It's, Google is usually very good. That's the first time I've been something like this.
yeah, this is the first time it's happened. What do you suggest? Shall I kind of just close it and then open it again? Shall I try to do that?
It's probably worth a try, isn't it? See if it.
Okay, so could everybody just give me 2 minutes? I'm going to just close it, and then I'm going to reopen it in, just give it 2 minutes to just refresh. Okay. So Mohammed, Yazan, Chris, is that okay? Just 2 minutes, and then we'll go back in.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Stay.
I think so. Well, that's.
Did you say you're near Birmingham, Chris?
Yeah, I live fairly centrally, not far from Five Ways. But where are you based?
I'm down in St Leonard's on the southeast coast.
Oh yeah, very nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. I've been here since 2019. I love it. It's just nice to be by the sea. Gives a bit of perspective on days like this, where you could just go.
I used to know people who lived there years ago, but
lost
all contact with them now. But
shame. But as it happens, doesn't it? As people move around and life takes over.
Yeah, it's nice to be by the sea. It's got a lovely rhythm to it. So
yeah, it does. I was in London for a long time before that, and by the end, I thought I just need to be near nature. I need to be nearer nature.
Yeah, it's. London has its natural parts, but it gets overwhelming after a while.
It's just the sort of the craziness of it. I still go in there twice a week to work, but I spend most of my time here now, which is lovely.
Yeah,
it's nice.
Yeah, so is a fairly settled population in St. Leonard's, or do you get a lot of tourists? And
we do in the summer months or in the warmer months and school holidays and things. So Easter can be a bit busy. It goes from being really quite quiet to suddenly you can't park anywhere. You just can't get anywhere. It's nice, and it's a nice community. But you do see lots of new faces as well coming into it. So yeah, it's a bit of both, really.
Yeah, because it's not a place you hear a lot about. It's not like the Brightons of this world, or
that's it,
or the other seaside resorts.
Yeah, it's still managed to stay a little bit off radar, which is quite nice.
Yeah,
there's something lovely about that. But there's a lot of Airbnbs here now, which there's very divided opinions about, which obviously brings tourists in, but it means that there's not many homes for people to rent, which obviously gets quite controversial.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a difficult one.
Yeah, when the resident population gets pushed out, it's
Hi.
Yes.
Is Mohammed still here?
It was.
He was, but yeah.
He will come back, I guess, in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. So hopefully this will be better. Let me not interrupt you.
No, we're just exchanging notes on St. Leonard's.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So where is that where? Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. So Yazan, my last question, the one I don't think you heard, was just about strengthening the community so that you can draw on the skills and resources that people in the community have. So my question was about, Anilu was talking about her skills as a writer, as a coordinator, someone who brings people she's in a very different country to where you are. How you can creatively to stimulate, you know, the feeling project, the essence of it, and to raise more awareness about it.
Okay, that's a good point. Actually, the Phoenix Rising project is based on creativity and building communities. So building communities is the most important part of it. Of course, we can say communities is depending on people themselves or individuals and their skills. So for me, like meeting people inside Gaza or outside Gaza here in Egypt, that is a good part actually to see various we can say brains or opinions and various personalities, various skills. So each person has his own character, his own skills, his own vision. So of course we need this in the Phoenix Rising project, so we can benefit from everyone's vision, everyone's opinion. Because for example, I can see something other one can't see it, or some friend he has a specific opinion about a specific subject, and I don't have that opinion, or I couldn't think about it. So sharing those thoughts can make we can say strong impact. Also, the skills are so important. You can say the most important skills are writing, skills related to social media, filming, taking pictures. Actually, the visual media is so important now in these days, especially in our Palestinian case. So we can deliver any message we can or we want to deliver. So we are in like in this century. It's so important to do the visual delivery for the information, or for anything you want to deliver to the audience. So it's important to be a good writer, a good speaker, a good filmmaker, or good at taking pictures. So like connecting all these people's with these creative skills can make a strong community actually. And we can say project management as well. That is so important, and now I'm learning more about this thing. And I'm so into communities now. I have like maybe 3 or 4 different communities here in Egypt. I'm trying to make my own one, because I believe that relationships or friendships are the most important thing in any creative path, we can say. Because like in community X, I found somebody is so creative in something I need him. Another one, I found somebody that is that's creative in some point. So I connect all these people to my community, so we can do creative things together. And that's
Yazan, do you mind me asking, what is the change you wish to bring about?
okay, actually, the change in this world is not something easy, actually. But of course, we can say we have the butterfly effect. That's a theory that everybody can affect in this world. So, in my opinion, if I change an individual mind, that's an effect. So, the good effect we can spread around the world, or in our communities at least, is to talk about any humanitarian case, to raise awareness around the world, to let people know the truth at least, because a lot of people are blinded or brainwashed. So I guess it's so important to just let them see the truth. That's a huge gift we can give them. That's a small effect, and other effects we can help our people, like my people in Gaza. A lot of them came here to Egypt. So now they are without anything. They have lost everything. They have lost their homes, family members, their we can say their living resources. So now they are nothing. They're just living here in Egypt, and a lot of them are injured people. So I work in an NGO here in Egypt called Life of Blood Foundation. I'm a volunteer actually, so I'm trying to volunteer to help my people to do that effect, and I'm seeing it by my eyes because we have a lot of groups. They come from USA, from UK, from South Africa. All these groups come together. They have their funds. They want to help people. So me and my group and this foundation, we just we're like a connection between the donors and the people who want to receive this fund or this donation. So what we do is we transfer this money or this fund into food parcels or hygiene bags or anything, like we can say blankets. That we did recently, that we distributed blankets, mattresses, because a lot of people, they don't have these essential things. So that's an effect when we see like a huge percentage of these families here in Egypt. We have covered them from their needs, from blankets, from mattresses, from food parcels. So a good percentage of their needs. So that's a good impact in my community, and I'm trying to reach to the outside community, to the international community, and do an effect. And actually, I'm trying to learn to teach people Arabic actually. So it's a good point to teach them Arabic. That's that can make a difference actually.
Does that answer your question, Chris?
Oh yes, it's I'm sort of reaching out. You're building a sort of support network, it seems to me, and giving a community some sense of themselves, of their own power, and empowering. At the moment, it's a community that's is what the British will call an expat community, but it's there to realize itself as. I can see what you're trying to change. If you accept that interpretation.
I suppose in this situation, there's the physical needs that have to be met, there's the emotional needs, there's the intellectual needs, and there's the spiritual needs. And we know that at the physical level, yes, people are homeless, people are without physical resources. And so what Yazan is doing is being a part, engaging in that physical assistance, but there's also the emotional, isn't there? And I was very, very glad a few weeks ago when Mohammed said that the universities, Danilu, the universities in Gaza, as you know, they've all been destroyed. And so it was very refreshing when Mohammed said a few weeks back that they've started to do their work online, so it's like overcoming that physical obstacle of destruction and using the virtual realities instead. And so there's the emotional and there's the intellectual, and I suppose that's what we're doing here. It's like having these intellectual conversations and hoping that something will emerge from exchanging these ideas and asking the right questions. And sometimes you just have to be very intentional about the kind of questions that we're asking. And then there's the spiritual. The spiritual is where we get our optimism from. It's where we get that faith from, that this too will pass. These hard times will pass. We have faith in that. That we can't kind of like provide like evidence for it apart from, well, let's look through history. We know that people have gone through wars and genocides and atrocities, and then there's light at the end of the tunnel. And so there's that spiritual needing to remain in that state of optimism. But I suppose what we're doing here is at the intellectual level. It's like, well, what are the ideas that we have that we can stimulate, generate ideas that will lead to some good happening? So Danilu, do you have any other thoughts about what you were saying earlier?
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole thing around getting it to catch, I suppose, is a fitting thing, being that it's Phoenix and it's flames and flames catch, but getting it to come into that international consciousness in a way that you said about like knowing the truth, saying the truth, in that way, rather than through the media and lenses that are, you know, decided for us, if you like. You know, is there a way that you would like that to be, or that you think it could go? Because the thoughts that I had, and these are just literally ideas that I had following the call, was maybe we could, you know, share what you're doing in some way by simply sharing what you're doing, but doing it in a space that's in the UK, you know. So we almost just, and it came from, I think it was Jesvi, I think it was you that said about amplification. Like, is there a way of showing what you do or feeding what you do through to a you know, could we be that amplification somehow? That was where my head went, because I definitely can find people down here who have spaces and can get people together to listen or watch.
Well, I was hoping that Farah would be able to join this call, actually, because I was really impressed with some of the videos that she's been creating, and she's organized this thing called Gaza Talents, and in the video she's talking about how they are empowering people to develop skills, employability skills, so that they can learn to do business overseas, internationally. So, you know, that project seems to be something quite tangible. And Yazan, I was hoping that you can liaise with her as well, like see where the bridges are between what you're doing and what she's doing. And, you know, because that sounds, even just a few videos that I've seen inspired me. And that's something very, very concrete that people, yes, we do need in every country, even in this country, there are young people who don't have the skills to go for an interview, for example. How do you, you know, and we need people who can mentor, who can coach people to especially overcome trauma and go for an interview, you know, because everything is around this issue of, like, there's still that trauma, there's that uncertainty, there's, you know, there's that healing where the wounds are still taking place, you know, that there's not enough time for that healing to happen before another wound has kind of cut into the same cut, whatever. So there's a lot of need for mentoring and coaching and being allies, isn't there? Mohammed, you're still in Gaza. So, you know, with this project of like Gaza Talents, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at Farah's work, but what do you think about projects like that, which are, you know, in helping people to develop the skills, regardless of like the fact that they can't continue their studies in the same way that they were studying before? What do you think about projects like that, Mohammed?
Actually, I surprised that she could and her colleagues to make this project during the war, as there is problems in the electricity, problems in the internet connection, to find a place that she can work with her colleagues. But doing this during the war, while she's still in Gaza, this is, if I can say, like literally, the literally applied for the idea of Phoenix Rising, that she's still in the war, during the war, and she could make this brilliant project come to truth. I took a look about the project, and it's not easy, and it's something big, and I hope for her all the best, because if this project still having progress and still making success, this will be something huge in the future.
Yes, it's a shame that she couldn't be with us today, but she said that she has that workspace from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock. So it's not possible for her to join us after 5 o'clock.
Yes, maybe we can in next week or after next week, for example, to make it more earlier if it's possible. We can discuss this.
Yeah, that would be good. So, Chris, what do you think about, you know, the thing about coaching and mentoring? You know, like with your, I know that you do a lot of voluntary work helping people to develop skills, and in terms of helping and supporting people who are in Gaza who are in need. Maybe we can't help in a physical way, but we do have the skills to offer. So how do you think it's possible to create that additional kind of resource through our mentoring and coaching and skill development?
Well, I mean, earlier, I might have been, Danny mentioned the voice. And I think a lot of people don't join in the argument because they're frightened of expressing opinion, because I think they don't feel they have the skills to make an argument or put a coherent phrase together, which they can do easily if they're sitting with their friends in a cafe talking, but then to get up and expose yourself to the general public is quite a frightening ordeal for a lot of people. So I think there are ways of mentoring people in this respect and getting them to express their own unique point of view, which everybody has, rather than just being a passive recipient of other people's points of view. So there is an art to argument, there is an art to debate, and there is an art to public speaking, which is thousands of years old, but these skills can be passed on quite easily, and all they need is to be practiced as any other skill needs to be, and so it's A, teaching people the techniques, and B, building their confidence to employ those techniques, and so the more voices there are, the better it is, rather than authority just damping down on any opinion that differs from their own.
Any thoughts on that, Danielu?
I think I think they're brilliantly articulated thoughts, and I would agree. Actually, I think it's powerful that, if we can mentor people or coach people to help shape. I suppose it's shaping, isn't it? It's like the voice is already there and the opinions are already there, but it's shaping it in a way that it can be heard, or where people feel confident that it is going to be heard in the way that they intend. That's the bit that feels important.
Yes,
just building on what you said there,
that's
really.
so important. A lot of people in Gaza, or youth people, they have the essential skills to do this, but they need a supervisor or a trainer to just enhance their skills. They have the basic skills, but they need to enhance them to get more skills about how to tell a story, how to talk in front of people, or how to deliver a message. So I guess that's a good point to talk about, or to do in the people in Gaza.
Yeah. This is what I do, by the way.
Allah, how you do? What do you do?
So as well as the creative work I do, I'm a coach, a coach and a trainer on things like presentation skills, messaging, communication. So I do that, and I'm creative, so I do the two.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, so you do it on your own, or under like an organization or a team?
Well, I associate, and I work with different people, but I have my own organization as well, my own consultancy. So I've been doing that for 20 years, and I've been working in theatre and music and stuff for 30. So the two go together. So, I'm very happy to help.
We can connect ideas together, actually. I have a lot of ideas to do about this.
Okay, nice. So I'm really happy to help where I can with any of this.
Yeah, sure, we can do this, inshallah.
I think the first time that I met you, Danielu, I remember seeing a TEDx video that you had done. That was several years ago, about 6-7 years ago, I think, perhaps.
And now it's 2015. Can you believe?
2015. And when I met you, maybe it was 2016 or 2017. And I saw the video. And the reason I mentioned that video is because a TEDx video is something tangible. It's something which amplifies your voice, right? because I didn't know you, and I saw that TEDx video, and immediately there's that credibility there. You know, the fact that you've managed to, you know, get yourself on stage at a TEDx event means you've put in the hours, you've rehearsed, you've perfected your speech. You know, you've really thought about what you wanted to say, and you've kind of, you know, delivered a refined, polished speech. So something that like that requires a lot of skill, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And again, the reason I mentioned that is that, you know, you've been doing this work for 20 years, and at the beginning there must have been, you know, the first few years are always hard when you're working for yourself, when you're trying to market yourself, and that's what you're doing as well, Yazan, is like, you know, to raise awareness about what you're doing. The first few years are hard because it's, you know, to get that engine moving, it has to first be refined. All the parts need to be there in place for it to start moving. And so could you share, Danielu, some of your experiences for when, you know, looking back, when you first started out on your own, how did you manage to kind of like make your brand be known so that people did see that you're a credible person and that they wanted to listen to what you have to say?
Yeah, it's definitely not a straight line of a path. It's definitely has its bumps and has its journey. I'm trying to think how to articulate. I mean, a lot of it was trust and keeping doing. So the thing that I knew that I wanted to do and that I felt had a purpose behind it, it was that kept me going when it felt like, oh, come on, this is, you know, this is taking a long time and it's not catching. But I think the best thing I ever did was just keep talking to people and keep the why strong. And the more you talk to people, I was finding people who, you know, were on the same frequency, if you like, and who had similar interests, and that built over time. And it did take time, but then people refer you, you know, then people meet other people and they go, oh, I know someone who lines with that. So that network it suddenly catches. But it's hard to know when that will catch, but you have to keep going in order for it to catch. I suppose it's there's a bit of hard work and there's a bit of tenacity, but there's also a lot of trust and clarity that you need. It sounds like you have it. It's the keeping going bit I suppose it's the spiritual thing that we referred to before, which is, you know, keep going, trust it, keep going, trust it. It will, you know.
It has to come from that spiritual place, that faith. And you talk about the why. That why has to be strong enough. What was your why that kept you motivated, that kept you moving forward? What was that why?
It's interesting because the words come out today, which was truth, connection. You know, that
why was that important? Why was truth and connection important?
For me at the time, because I wasn't seeing enough truth. I got quite tired at a lot of non-truth, so things that felt fake or lip service rather than genuine. So the truth for me was important, to get people to tell the truth and to give them the power to tell the truth.
It must have been hurting, you know, the fact that you didn't see as much truth as you wanted there to be. That there must have been some pain in that. And I can say that because, like, for Muhammad, that's what it is. It's like there's so much pain in people not knowing the truth, and that has to be, you know, that pain, I suppose, is a driver, isn't it?
Definitely. I think what we experience as adversity often becomes our purpose, you know, because if we really feel like, no, this is unfair, or this is wrong, or this, it gives us something to push against in a way, which gives us a lot of energy. I think there's a lot of energy that can come out of adversity, without that sounding trite. You know, it definitely gave me a passion and an energy that helped me push through, and ultimately a purpose, you know. And then the reward is huge when you push through, because you get that truth, or you get that connection, and it's everything.
And for you, yes, and it's obvious the why is like there's that urgency, isn't it? You know, it's like it's you know, these are life and death situations. And so that's, you know, when there's that sense of urgency right in front of you, it's like that house on fire. You know, the house is on fire, so something has to be done about it. You can't just wait for it to burn. So there's that driver. And so that was the starting point for you. And then what about the trust? You know, because we've often talked about the importance of trust in a community. A community only stays together, only comes together if there is trust and safety. So for you, how did you gain the trust of others? How did you, you know, make yourself a trustworthy person in the perception of others?
That's a really good question. I think by being real and honest counts for a lot, because then we can relate to someone as another human being with vulnerabilities, and then we tend to trust that, I think, when someone can be real with us. But also the conversations I would have with people, you know, was important as well. So I would bring what I could bring, but I would also be open to say, well, what can you bring, and how can we work together with this? That was what built the trust. I guess it's the collaboration piece, being open to, well, I can bring some stuff, but what, you know, I'm only one person, what else needs to come in from you? And then that comes together to create another thing, which is creative in itself. You know, that creativity and that connection then builds the trust, and also from the trust things emerge, things that we don't always anticipate, I think.
That's right, because when I used to organize those creativity conferences, there was one year where there were 80 different people. There were 80 speakers. I think it was 2018 when I had 80, but on other years there'd be about 40. There's still quite a lot. So it ranged, in some years there was only 20 because I didn't have very much time. So it ranged between 20 to 80 people at each conference. And I think I probably did it for about 5 years. If I hadn't done that, you wouldn't be here now. You know, because we haven't actually ever met in person, but we've met several times on several years running at those conferences. And so that's the thing about community. It's like you were invited to those conferences, and then you've accepted my invitation to be part of this conversation. And that's because the trust was built over those years, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It takes time. It takes time. And then perhaps, you know, because you knew me like from those conferences, you think, yeah, you know, I can do that. I can invest like an hour, a couple of hours in this, because it's something which is valuable, which is worthwhile. And like with you, Chris, every week you are on these calls. There must be a why that is strong enough for you to think, it's really important for me to be there at 7:30 every Wednesday. You know, practically every Wednesday, you make it important enough to be here. What is that why for you? Why is it important for you to be part of the community, Chris?
I don't know. Over the years, you know, I haven't really succeeded in mastering anything particular, but I do have a lot of accumulated knowledge, because I do over the years. So I bring a lifetime to these discussions, and a lot of history that I've lived through and seen, and often seeing it being repeated again in different situations. So I think just a broad approach, because I have interests and I follow them, and over the years I've accumulated a certain amount of, you might call it wisdom, or a point of view, and I'm learning all the time. So especially as the world is unfolding at the moment, some of it I've been there before, and others it's completely novel situations. So it's a fascination with life, and with a lifelong experience to look back on. So I'm in my anecdotage now, and so it's nice to exercise it from time to time.
Okay. And Yazan, for you, because you're here every week as well, and so for you, what has kind of maintained that momentum for you? You know, like, do you find that these conversations help in any way, or do you feel that it's just a conversation? You know, do you feel that thoughts emerge following these conversations sometimes?
Yeah, of course. Actually, for me, these conversations are incredible. Not because I benefit myself, but I try to talk about my people, talk about the Palestinian case, so that like get our responsibility out of my heart. So it's my responsibility, everyone's responsibility. So I have to take mine. So I have to talk. I have to speak up to deliver the message. That's the first part, and the second part is like I feel all the ideas comes to my mind. Like every session we have or every conversation we have, I get a lot of ideas to my mind. I want to do more. I want to be more effective to my community, to the people. I want to do a lot of things actually. So every session we have, I get more ideas, and maybe one or two or three ideas can work and can benefit and can make effect. And that's the most important thing, as Christopher said, to make effect in this world, at least in my community, in your community, in our communities, our small communities. If we could do that effect in our small communities, we can affect in the whole world, as I believe in the butterfly effect theory that says that we can say any butterfly in the west of the world can affect or do an tsunami or hurricane or whatever. So everybody in this world has his own effect or effect in this world in his own way. So it's so important, and I'm so glad for these conversations.
Yeah, and Mohammed, when Yazan talks about the butterfly effect, do you know which story he's talking about? Because, you know, for some people, the butterfly effect story is very, very common. But for you, have you heard of the butterfly effect story?
I heard many years before. I'm not remembering the story, but I understand the meaning of the story, that the very, very small single effect can make in the future something huge.
Absolutely. Yes. It's a very powerful story. I spoke about it. Chris, I don't know if you remember, one of my speeches at Toastmasters was about the butterfly effect. Do you still remember that?
I can't say I do.
It wasn't a very good speech then. But Danilu, you
It
know.
might have been. It might not. I might not have been there.
Yeah. Danilu, do you know the story about the butterfly effect?
I only know the concept of the butterfly effect. I don't know the story behind it.
I'll just tell it in 2 or 3 sentences. It was a story started in the 1960s. It was a meteorologist called Edward Lorenz, and he was typing in like statistics for the weather forecast. And it was late in the evening, and this weather forecast, he had like let's say it was like 1.00000095, and he thought, let me just narrow it down to 0.3. Like so instead of like putting all those zeros and 95, he just simplified it to 3 decimal points. And what he found was that by that very tiny kind of change, absolutely tiny change, that tiny change was the same vibration as the butterfly's wings, the flap of a butterfly's wings. The weather forecast, in just simplifying that, in reducing it down by the change of a butterfly's wings, it changed the forecast from calm weather to a tornado.
Wow.
Story. Yes, that's a story. And so from that, it's like, so a flap of a butterfly's wings in Brazil could cause a tornado in Japan, like over distance and whatever. So yeah, it's a powerful story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice to know the origin of it as well, because I know the concept of what it is, but not I don't know where it came from. Yeah,
so that's why it's called the butterfly effect. And so there's lots of I use that story a lot. Like, for example, there was a tsunami about a year ago where the tsunami happened in one of these islands near Australia, but that tsunami in Australia led to this oil spillage in Peru, which was about 10,000 kilometers away. Oil spillage because the waves you know, it kind of the shaking of like that ripple effect caused, you know, they were unloading the ship with this petrol, and it just all went into the sea. And so that was an example. You know, there's lots of examples of like where something happens in you know, Gaza is one example now. You know, so something happens in Gaza and it's not isolated. What's happening in Gaza has a ripple effect, you know, all across the world. You know, so it's not as though the problem is there kind of wrapped in a little bundle and it's just about the Palestinian people. You know that, Yazan, and Mohammed, you know that as well. It's much bigger than the problem there. You know, it's much, much bigger. It's a worldwide problem. It's a problem of, you know, suppression, oppression, and injustice and unfairness, and that's why people across the world can feel that pain, because they're experiencing it in different ways. You know, you might say, oh, we're not experiencing it in such a cruel and ruthless way as people are experiencing it in Palestine. Right, okay, but there's always the relativity, isn't it? It's like there's different degrees. It's like it's the same pain. It's much worse in some places, but it's still that same pain of like that injustice and being helpless, that not knowing what you can do about it. So that's, yeah, the butterfly effect is very powerful, because it's not just about physical, it's about emotional and spiritual, and yeah.
Yes, of course. Actually, this concept, we can say about Palestine. Palestine is like one of the smallest countries around the world, but this genocide or this war made a huge effect around the world, made all the world think about Palestine, think about genocides around the world, made people from, we can say, India, from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, from South Africa, remember their old days or their similar things they have faced in the history. So it made a huge effect in the world. It changed a huge amount of people's mind, you can say. And we have our Palestinian, I can say, Mahmoud Darwish. You know Mahmoud Darwish? He has a poem. He says about the butterfly effect. أثر الفراشة لا يرى أثر الفراشة لن يغيب, which means the effect of the butterfly can't be seen, but it can't be absent. So I love this poem and I love this effect, and I believe in it. So we're trying to be a butterfly in this world. Everyone should be a butterfly and try to do his own thing to do an effect in this world.
Yeah, because there's that tipping point, you know, so people have to kind of keep digging until suddenly everything kind of comes into place. Any thoughts on that, Danilu?
God, I think it's huge. It's actually, as you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, you know, I know what it's like to feel unfairness and to feel isolated and all of that stuff. And it's just the wrapping's different, right? And it's that thing that connects us as humans. We might experience things through different shapes, and some of them are really big and some of them are really small. But the one thing that brings us together are those things that are unanimous, like the emotions, the feelings, the abandonment, the frustration, the pain, the joy, all of that stuff, all of that human stuff we all experience that. They're the threads that tie us together, as well as this butterfly effect that is, kind of frequency that's going through it all at the same time.
Actually, it's all logical. It's all logic. So if everybody starts with himself, of course, we will have a better world at the end. For example, if we had a class of 40 students, if everyone or every student wants to talk, the whole class would be so loud and so messy. But everyone is thinking that he's talking, so I will be talking. This guy is talking, and I will be talking. But if everybody starts with himself or himself, he will be silent, and each one in the class will be silent. So if everyone starts with himself, of course, we will have a better world at the end, and we will deliver our message. We will do anything we can do.
And I was just thinking about the election and Trump's victory in the US, and on the news they said that one of the first things that Trump said he wants to do is to deport 15 million people from the US who are said to be without documentation. And 15 million people, I was just saying to a friend earlier on today, in England, there's about 64 million people. So 15 million people, that's about 20% of our population here. That's a big proportion. And so that 15 million people who face deportation, that some of them will have children who were born and brought up in the US, and they were born and brought up there. So that's also this kind of the forced movement of people, forcing people to move from the place where they were born. Some of those people without documentation, they might even be second generation. So there are like similarities going on all around the world, even in faraway places. Yeah.
Yes, actually, about the American elections, you are the victims on both sides, actually, because either the Republicans or democracy won the election. It's the same for us. They are, we can say, they are trying to be the best in this genocide. They are trying to be the best to support Israel and to arm Israel. So either Trump or Kamala, both of them, they are trying to support Israel. They are trying to. They are with the same with the same ideas about the Palestinian case. So in the Middle East, in general, they are so bad, both sides. So that's it. You can do anything.
That's true. But think about those 15 million people who live in the US, you see. So it's about them, and it's about, other people whose human rights, because we're talking about human rights all the time, whose human rights will be violated or, not upheld. The simple right to live in the country where you were born. So, Chris, any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, the worrying thing about it is not just picking on people who are undocumented. It's where you go from there. The old saying that, they came for the Jews, I'm not a Jew, so I didn't say anything, and they came for the Catholics, I'm not a Catholic. And eventually they came for me, and there was nobody there to speak up for me. Pastor Muller. But so he may start with the undocumented, but then Trump is a racist, so he'll then, I mean, his program is white supremacy, so he will then start looking at other groups, especially Muslims. He doesn't like Muslims, so he'll start persecuting them, and so it's all right. It looks innocent at first. Oh yes, it's justified in throwing people out who've come in illegally, in inverted commas. But once he starts, where does he finish?
Yeah, Chris, this is why I love having you on the calls, because you have, you're erudite and you have so much kind of wisdom from your years, and you always bring in some literature to support what you're saying. Chris is very well read. Look at all the books behind him, and he's actually read all those books. He seems to have memorized them, because he'll kind of like bring out quotes from these books. So yeah, it's so true that and I think we've said this on the call before. I think, Yazan, I remember you saying it, that now it's about the Palestinians, next it's the Lebanese, next it's the Iranians. It's like, it's not going to stop there. And so it is, once again, it's that butterfly effect. It does relate to all of us in some way. So well, thank you everybody for a stimulating conversation once again, and hopefully we can continue to bring in new ideas. Mohammed, do you have anything further to say before we end the call today? You still there, Mohammed? Yazan, do you have anything?
Yes, I'm with you. Could you please just repeat the question again? Just to
Oh.
make sure that I can understand you very well.
Off because it's about 8:30 again. So we're just rounding off. So do you have anything more to add to what we've spoken about today?
Nothing new I can add. I hope just like next time we can, for example, make change just to change the time so that we can have Farah, so that we can talk about her project. I guess it will be great that we have her in the meeting, having this kind of projects and talk about it inside in the meeting will be great. We will have a lot of experience from her and from her self experience also. That will be great for us and great as a story to talk about rising inside this war.
Okay, yeah, maybe in a couple of weeks' time we could have an earlier meeting in a couple of weeks' time, like say on the 20th of November. Could you do that, Chris? 4 o'clock? She suggested 4 o'clock.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So in a couple of weeks, we'll Yazan, is that okay with you as well? Like in 2 weeks' time, we have one meeting at 4 o'clock.
We can fix that.
Okay, all right, wonderful.
I deserve this, actually. I really want to meet Farah and to talk
Yes.
about
Project
his
in Gaza.
project. Yeah, his
Okay,
project.
wonderful.
It's so interesting, and I also want to connect with Danny on LinkedIn. If you can connect us, we have a lot of ideas you can work on, actually.
Yeah,
Definitely.
okay, all right, everyone. So next week, same time. In 2 weeks' time, I'll invite Farah for a 4 o'clock meeting. Okay.
Good.
Okay. Bye for now. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
You.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.